Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to create an image gallery application, which could also be used for a single or just a few images on a web page. It doesn't have to be a gallery, but that's what I did. And if you go to the website and check it out, if you hover over an image and you click on it, basically everything else in the background kind of fades away nicely. And you have this nice close button that you can close. And let's test another image. There you go. And it's also always centered no matter what the browser size is, so the image is always centered. And this is basically done using jQuery and Dynamic CSS. So I will be focusing on those two topics today in this tutorial. So if you go to the website and you download the files, so if you go to www.freetutorialsrock.com and you go to download tutorial files here, and you check out CSS and jQuery image gallery. You click on that and you download it right there. Now I'm just going to go over the summaries of the most important points in this tutorial and for these files rather than typing everything out from scratch, because I did write everything from scratch, but there's only a few things I do really want to focus on, and it just takes a lot more time to doing a handwritten tutorial. It's going to take twice as long. So once you download it, you will be getting a couple of files and folders. So there's the one that I downloaded. So you go to image gallery, you unzip it using WinRAR or WinZip or something, and you have on the front you have index.php file, and really this could have been an HTML file, but when I was first writing this I wasn't sure if I was going to need PHP or if I wanted PHP, so I just kind of stuck with PHP, no big deal. And you get three more folders. You get CSS, which contains global.css file. You get the images folder, which contains the full size and the thumbnail images. Now I could have done this with just one folder with full size and got the thumbnails through JavaScript from downsizing the full size ones, but this is just how I did it. I guess you could improve my code and make it more compact. And finally, we have our JS file, which contains our JavaScript files. It only has two, jQuery.js and gallery.js. And the three important files that we will be going over in this tutorial will be, of course, index.php, gallery.js, and our global.css file. So those three will be our main topics for this tutorial. So let's take a look at index.php, see what the general layout is. Of course, I just made a table, and each table row there's three images. Pretty straightforward. What I would like to focus on is I have the JavaScript, the jQuery link, the link to the jQuery file up top in the header, but I have the link to the gallery.js file at the bottom below everything else. And the reason for that is because I'm using Dynamic CSS, and that entails using elements that are being loaded or in the process of being loaded on the specific HTML page, so it's constantly changing, and that's why it can only be accessed after everything else has already loaded, and therefore I have the JavaScript portion at the very bottom below all of the other HTML elements. You can use some more jQuery functions to make it go to the top, but I just wanted to point that out. That's why I put it on the bottom, and that's how this tutorial will be working. And next we also have the div with the ID of blackout, which is right now blank. We will be adding more inside that div later on with our JavaScript or jQuery. And then we have our div of ID whitebox, which has two additional divs inside it. The div of close ID, or div with the ID of close, and the div with the ID of gallery image. The gallery image one is blank right now, but the close one has the link of close, and it has it links back to the current page, but of course I've included JavaScript that says onClick return false, so that it applies the JavaScript animation but doesn't refreshes the page. So now that I've gone through that, I'm going to just go over a little bit with the global.css page. So if you take a look at it, at the top, it's fairly straightforward stuff, like CSS resetting at the very top. And then I have some basic CSS to make it, look nice with the dotted table borders with a nice little background for the hover, um, stuff like that. And the only important part here I want to cover is everything below blackout div. Now, it has the white box div and everything else, but I just named it blackout div, whatever, in the comment section. And for the blackout div, I have so this is basically saying that what I'm doing with the blackout div is when you click on an image, you have the kind of grayed out background. Well, the reason why it's grayed out is because I made it an opacity of about 80%. If I make it opacity of 100%, let's go to our gallery.js and let's change that to 100%. So change that to 1. Save that, refresh this page, click on the image, and everything else goes black. So that's what it's basically doing. Now I want to change that back to 0.8 since that's what I liked. And if I refresh the page, click on it, there you go. It kind of has opacity. It doesn't completely black everything out, so there's still something in the background. I just prefer it that way. So let's come back to the global.css page. We have div and then ID of blackout. Position is absolute. Top is 0, so left is also 0, so I'm not leaving out any edges. And I made the height 100% of the browser and width also 100% of the browser. Now do note that if I come back to the index.php page, the blackout div is actually only contained by the body tag. And if I go back to the global CSS page, if I check out body, actually no, I didn't put 100% there for the width and height, so I guess I don't need that. So basically, the div is not, it doesn't have any other parent divs. This div, the div blackout is on the very outside. Therefore, when you put it a CSS, when you give it a CSS width of 100%, the actual width of the width that is taken into account is the whole browser width. That's just what I want to say. So let's come back to the CSS page. So we have the div blackout. We have the height and width at 100%. Of course, the background color is black, or number is 000. And I gave it a z index of 100 because I wanted it to kind of come to go on top of everything else. And since I didn't really have any other z index items, z index of 100 was enough for my tutorial. And below that, I do have some CSS for div ID of white box. And for this one, I gave it a position of fixed because I wanted it to be always comparable to where the browser was. As you can see, if I click on it, the image is centered, and if I move the browser around, or if I change the size of the browser around, it's always dynamically moving around. So that's why I wanted to use fix. And if I and the reason why I gave it a top position of 50% and the left position of 50% is because that's part of the dynamic CSS we'll be using. Now, if I didn't add anything else and just had top and left of 50%, the top edge would actually be at the center of the browser, like there, and the left edge of the image would actually be at the center of the browser here, like that, if you can see my mouse cursor. So that's only half the process, and basically if I have the top edge in the center, I want it to be I want it to have a top margin of negative 300 pixels, or negative half of the image height. And if I have a if I have a left edge here, not there, but actually in the center like that, I want it to have a left margin of negative half of the image width. So that's when our dynamic CSS comes in handy, and we will be doing that in the gallery.js file. And the reason we're doing it in the gallery.js file is because we can't change CSS dynamically in the actual CSS file. We have to do it in the JavaScript file. And of course, I gave it a background of white, which is a $ sign, $, FFF, and the z index I gave it a z index of 200. And let's see, we have the white box image and a padding of 25 pixels. So if we take a look here, we have the image here, and then we have a little white border that's basically 25 pixels. On the top, I gave it a little more so we can have a more visible and easy to click close sign. And for the div of close, I made it float to the right, gave it a height of 36 pixels, and text aligned it to the right so it's at the right of the white box there. And I gave some more CSS that's not really too important. It's really introductory CSS. You can take a look over it yourself. And so now that I've shown you the basics of the global.css file, I now want to give you an explanation of my gallery.js file. So this is the main one that we're going through. This is the most important file of all the files that you're downloading from my website for this tutorial. And if you take a look at it, it's about 50 lines. Not too big at all. It's a pretty compact one, but it has a lot of techniques. It actually took me a few hours to actually get this straight because I was trying different methods of doing it one way or another, and I had some browser compatibility issues. And this is the method that I came with, and this is actually a really great reason to try and create small light applications yourself. One of the main things you learn is that there's more than one ways to make a single application. There's you can make a hangman JavaScript game, and there will be like 20 different ways to make that same application. That's why coding is is interesting. There's more than one ways to do it. It's not always one solution, one method type of thing. Anyways, I'll shut up about that. And if you take a look at this file at the very top, I gave it the number images. I made an array called number images, and I listed all of the image source locations. So images full size, g1.jpg, and so on and so forth. And I also made another array with all the IDs that I will be using later on, g1, g2, g3, etc. And the main reason I made the IDs was because I wanted to make it easier later on for obtaining the image width and height. And later on, I can do that simply by just referring to the ID, which makes things a lot more easier for the way that I coded it. Of course, there's different ways to do it. That's simply the method that I chose. And the very next thing I do is, of course, preloading all of the full-sized images, because I don't want users to be clicking on an image and then they have to actually wait a second or two for the image to load. I do that at the very beginning, so by the time the user is already clicking on images to see them full-size, everything is already preloaded. So let's check it out, see what I did. I used a for function, and I made so number images dot length is basically counting how many variables there are in that array, and for each variable I wanted to document write this following HTML. So it is image with the style of margin left to the negative 10,000 pixel and margin top to the negative 10,000 pixel. So all of the preloaded images will be on the actual website, but nobody will have that big of a screen size to actually see where the images are. I want it way out of the way. That's the only reason why I made it such a big negative 10,000 pixel type of thing. And then I gave it an ID of one of the IDs that I chose from the numbers images ID array, and I gave the source of where I listed the sources as. And then after I've preloaded all of the images, I did do the next most important thing, which is toggle the black divs and the white divs out. So I toggled the div with the ID of black out. So if I remove this, if I remove that, save, refresh this page, it's actually all black. And the reason why? Because yeah, that's basically what it is. It has a z-index of fairly high of 100. And it's supposed to be on top of everything else, and it's supposed to cover the entire screen. And since it didn't get toggled specifically to 80% opacity, as it's supposed to be stated here, it's completely black. Now if I get rid of the white box div being toggled off, save that, and refresh this page, you have, of course, the white div being on top of the black div, because I gave the white div a z-index of 200. So I'm going to redo that, save it, refresh, and everything's back to normal. So that's basically what it's doing. It's hiding. It's a jQuery function. It basically hides anything that you say that you want it to hide. And the next thing I want to do is code the function of when I click this image, do the following. So that's image click. So if I go to a page and this is an image, if I click it, this is what it does. Now I can't really see the close box because the browser is set to be too small, so I'm going to make it bigger and close that. So when I click on an image, okay, so this image doesn't work because I already clicked on it. It's not doing anything more on top of it. It only works on images when the animation is toggled off. So the animation is not there. Click on an image, animation is there. Animation is there. Click on an image. I'm trying to click this. There's no more animation to be done, so nothing really happens. So I'm just gonna close that, and let's check out what the JavaScript says. Now, when I click on this image, there's a function that says fade in the blackout div to 80% in 0.55 seconds, and also at the same time fade in the white box div to a full opacity of 100% in 0.55 seconds. So that's basically all it's doing. And now if I just did that, there would be no image, there would be no basically there would be no image, and I still haven't done the dynamic CSS part. So what I do next is, for the dynamic CSS part, since I'm positioning the image in relation to the browser width and browser height, logically the first thing I have to do is get the browser width and the browser height. So I say browser height variable is equal to window height, and browser width is of course equal to window width. And the next thing I do is I want to get the name of the image. So you have the source, the full source here. Now what I want is this part right there. So how do I do that? I go to image array and this image and attribute source. So I'm not using the numbers image array here, but I'm actually just getting it directly from the image that's being clicked on. So I get the source and I split it with backslash and forward slashes. And because there are two forward slashes here, I think those are forward slashes, there's going to be 3 variables in this new array called image array. And I want the last one. So simply I say image. I want image array and the numbered variable. So image array length -1. And the reason why we do -1 is because JavaScript counts from 0. So in this case, there will be 3 variables. So it will be 3 minus 1. So it will be image array number 2. And that's going to be basically saying g1.jpg or g5.jpg. That's what it is. And then I want the ID, which is basically the name without the file extension, so like g1 or g3. So what do? I again make another array called ID array, and that's equal to selected image, which is this variable we just created here. And I split it with just a period, since it's g1.jpg or g3.jpg, so I just take out the period, and I want the first part of it, so ID array is 0, and that's how you get the ID. So simple JavaScript so far there. And let's see what I do next. Now I actually make the image pop up inside the white box. So how do I do that? I say inside the ID gallery image. So if you go back to index.php, we have the div with the ID of gallery image inside the white box div. And as you can see here, inside this div gallery image is actually empty. There's nothing inside it. So here I'm going to say inside the gallery image div, I'm going to change or add in the HTML. So that's this function here of the following. So image source images full size / selected image. So that's the g1.jpg or g2.jpg thing. And then the alt, I want the same thing. And there you go. Just like that, I said add in this image into the white box div just by clicking on the thumbnail image. And now for moving on more towards the dynamic CSS part, I want remember how I said I want the the negative margin, negative image width to be the margin, and the negative image height to be the left and top margins. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the image height, and this is where the ID part comes in very useful. I said I created the IDs up here so I can retrieve the image height and width very easily. All I have to do is say image height, the variable image height is going to be equal to ID, the number ID sign. That's kind of confusing. This is the pound sign is also the ID sign, and then I'm adding another variable called ID. But anyways, if you can kind of figure out what I'm saying here, it's the pound sign plus ID, which we defined with the variable here, and simply say I want the height. Same thing for image width. Get the ID you want, and then just say the width. I want that width. So image height is going to be plus the paddings, right? So the paddings I have included is 25 pixels. So if you go to say white box and the image, I included a padding of 25 pixels, but you have to include that for left and right and top and bottom. So image width, I made it to 50, but for the height, I added in a little bit more than 50 because you get this closed section on top, which makes the top and bottom padding add up to a little bit more than the left and right padding. So I want the margin top to be image height, so the new image height with the added padding divided by 2 and then a negative sign. For the left margin, I want it to be image width divided by 2 and the negative sign. And then you want to add in the pixel string at the end because these are just numbers, and of course CSS needs some kind of unit to define how much exactly it is, or is it centimeters, pixels, inches, or ems, so I added in the pixels and said for the dynamic CSS, I want the white box div to have a CSS of margin top of the margin top variable, and the margin left to be the margin left variable. So that in conjunction with the 50% top and left CSS I've added for the white box in the fixed position, it also gives a negative top and negative left margin so that the actual image is always centered no matter what size the browser is changed to. Okay, and let's see what I did at the very end. And once you've done all of that, it's really easy. And the last thing you want to do is, of course, code the close button. So I said whenever the div with the ID of close is clicked, do the following. Toggle off or fade toggle off. So this is simply the toggle function, but with included fade animation. So toggle the div with the ID of blackout off in 0.55 seconds in a linear fashion, and all linear is saying is that do it in a smooth way instead of being like fade off slowly for the first 0.2 seconds and then fade off really fast for the remaining 0.25 seconds. Just do it in a linear way so that it fades smoothly. And do the same thing for the white box div. In 0.55 seconds, please fade it away smoothly, toggle it off. And yeah, so when I close the close button, there it goes. It toggles off very nice and easily. And that is my gallery application. So this is the reason why I wanted to do this specific tutorial is because I saw a lot of applications similar to this on CodeCanyon.com, which is a website where you buy softwares at a low price for small coding packages. And I wanted to show you guys it's really not that hard to make something like that, something you normally see on CodeCanyon. Of course, mine is a little bit less polished, and it's not entirely user friendly. You still have to code some of it yourself to make it start working. But you got the idea of it. You have the tools to it. If you can go through this tutorial, you can make something worthy enough to put up on CodeCanyon.com, make some money. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my tutorial, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.